404, what are we in for? Like, subscribe. Mark Carney, this guy works in the shadows and he's come out here and now all of a sudden we're supposed to believe that he's like some sort of savior for Canada. This guy's a chameleon. Like, he's got three different passports. He already worked for Bank of Canada already. Nobody remembers him. So I don't know what that means, if his work is memorable or not. He was the governor for the Bank of England, and she was like, this guy's monetary policies ruined our country. She wasn't a big fan of him. And yeah, he's saying that they get rid of the carbon tax, but he wants to put an industrial carbon tax on now, which could even be worse. Like, he has this obsession with the environment, and which is fine. We all care about the environment, but we have a livelihood here in Canada uphold for generations of people still living here. We don't come from wealthy backgrounds like these guys do, where you can have these ideologies and say whatever you want and it doesn't really affect you, because at the end of the day you got a huge surplus of money that's never going to run out, where the average Canadian doesn't have that type of money. Like, they're struggling day to day, and I just don't think that he really has the Canadian people's best interest at heart here. I think he's just trying to continue on with the same agenda that we've been already on. The Liberal government's been in power for 9 years. We almost 10 years. We see how this has gone. As soon as Trump came into power and in the United States, he knew the pressure points to push, man, and got Canada like in a frenzy. It's not like he didn't know. Like, he knew exactly which buttons to push, and he knew that these guys were going to have to jump. He knew that Canada was going to have to bend the knee, so to speak. And like, this whole Team Canada approach to tariffs. First of all, yeah, we'll buy Canadian products for a while until the hype runs out, and then you see that cheaper product and you're going to buy that product again. So let's not act super virtuous about that. Like, most people are going to buy what they can afford, not what they could just pick and choose off the shelf, because we don't have a country where we can just pick and choose what we want anymore, because everything's so inflated here. Economically, our GDP on average is less than the poorest state in the United States, Mississippi. How is that even possible if we're a G7 country? That doesn't even make any sense. That's because Canada has our natural resources. It's not housing, it's not condos. We're flush with resources. We have metals in the ground, rare earth metals, which are very popular right now. This is why he wants Greenland. He'd love up northern Canada as well, because we have them up there too. This is what used in your phones, in your electronics. So that's very valuable right now, especially in this age. We got oil in the ground, gas in the ground. We got water, forestry. This is what Canada was built on. We're not even mining. Canada has all of these regulations set up in place. We're actually very conscious of the environment. Look, as soon as Doug Ford said he wanted to build stuff on the Greenbelt, everybody jumped down his throat. He had to back down on the Greenbelt thing. Canada doesn't play when it comes to environmental issues. If we're going to do something, we're going to do it and make sure that the environment is being respected in a way that it should be. And so we have very stringent rules on how to do things in this country. So if we're going to do it, we're going to do it like first class, as opposed to other countries, China and India. They're not going to do things at a first class level. They're going to just do things cheaply because they're not handcuffed by environmental regulations, where Canada is. Actually, why we don't have a natural gas line, oil line that runs across Canada is crazy. In all of the years, in all of our independence, we don't even have energy independence. Why are we relying on the United States for this? For energy? I just think that's when you become very idealistic and you don't really understand practicality. If we don't have energy, we're screwed. It's going to be some cold winters at your place when the snow falls, especially in Canada where it's cold. We're a seasonal country and we don't have this level of energy. It's insane. If we produce, say, natural gas or oil and gas, by us producing it in a right and proper way and giving it to countries who are less inclined to do things to benefit the environment or in a more environmentally friendly way, we'd actually eliminate our carbon emissions completely, because we'd be saving them from emitting it at a high rate. We'd essentially eliminate ourselves from the world's carbon emissions. This whole carbon tax thing doesn't make any sense. It would make more sense to actually produce things and be the gold standard of production in the sense of how to do things the right and proper way. And on top of that, it would bring a lot of jobs to Canadians and good paying jobs, like a lot of people, which is what we need, right? Our rate of pay hasn't really gone up in years. It's so stagnant. Like people are not really paying that much different types of jobs anymore. But our real estate has gone up. We go to the grocery store, everything's gone up. Everything around you has gone up. But yet our rate of pay hasn't gone up. We're like crabs in a bucket fighting for a raise. So how could the government say that they have our best interests in heart? How could they say we're Team Canada and we are going to be a poorer generation than our parents? Like it doesn't make any sense. And then they got this Mr. Mark Carney who comes in here riding in on his horse and, oh, we're going to put industrial carbon tax and we're going to reduce this carbon tax. And he's flying around on jets and he's living this elitist lifestyle. And he got his fund that he used to manage invest into oil and gas. So he's like a do as I say, not as I do type person. Like he just wants to sit on his throne and let us know that we are doing things in a bad way. When he does it, there's reasons behind it. Oh, I could justify why I do it, but you guys, there's no justification. That's because he doesn't really see us as people. He just sees his next agenda, but the one he needs to push. So, he'll tell us anything we need to hear. This is why he doesn't really want to do interviews, because if you listen to him long enough, you're going to start to see he's just a pretentious guy, who has these idealistic ways about him that. And then how do you relate to the common person? Do you really want to go at a pub and have a beer with this guy? Probably not. You can't have a beer with this guy. Like the Chameleon act is crazy, man. When you see it, like you just either see it or you don't see it, right? This guy, he is financially been in a part of the Liberal government already. Like this is Justin Trudeau's top economic advisor. So he's like everything like our life as it is has been not even indirectly, directly a result of his policies. He's a economist. He's a finance guy. He's been the Bank of Canada governor. He's been the Bank of England governor. Like this guy, his policies. He's showing you who he is. If you want more of the same, you're gonna want this guy in power. If you want actual change, then you'd want to change parties. I think everybody likes a new shiny toy. Sometimes you just need an actual change, not just a new talking head. He's not even a good talker. It's because he doesn't understand how to talk to people regularly. So that's definitely not his strength. I just think he wants to be installed. This is how elitists do things. They just install people. At this point in life, he goes off of his resume. He doesn't actually have to apply for the job. We all have to go out there and tap dance around for an HR manager and be on our best behavior just to get a job. This guy just gets installed. Like look at my resume. Oh, just believe me, because I'm better than you, and I want to run Canada, and I'm going to do it the way I see fit. Because now this is just the pinnacle, the apex of my resume, and I have an agenda from people that make a lot more money than you. I have a lot of special interest involved here, and I'm just going to get that agenda continuously pushed through, because I said they're all the same as already. And like for Trump, he's just looking at this. Man, I'm just pushing these guys' pressure points. I got Ontario, Quebec, and BC under pressure. You don't want a mine, you don't want no metals? Oh, we'll do it ourselves. Yeah, you got gangs from overseas bringing in the fentanyl to BC, finish off the manufacturing of it, ship it to the States, ship it back overseas. That's another money laundering. But he sees the money laundering haven. First of all, this guy, their premier, is selling all you guys out, man. You're got this drug issue, and you think that giving them, what do you call it? What kind of drugs? Safe supply. You're not giving safe supply. That's insane. You know what I mean? Maybe because you guys are so close to Portland. I don't know what's up on the West Coast, but you just want to turn your citizens into zombies instead of actually getting them help. That's how little that they think about you. It's a whole money laundering scheme. There's so much money involved there, from their real estate to the drugs. They got a lot of corruption happening over there. It's probably up to their eyeballs. Something smells rotten in Denmark over there. You're not going to just do this without any sort of incentive. People with common sense, or anybody who's actually lived a life and actually knows people who have been on drugs or are currently on drugs or are struggling with addiction, know that this is just common sense, man. I don't need some study to tell me that giving somebody a safe supply is the best way to help somebody with an addiction. It's hard to come off of drugs. So you'd rather watch them just kill themselves, essentially, eventually. Live live a life of poverty, impoverish these people, and make them just some sort of stain on society while you step over them. That's crazy to me. Yeah, so he's got his foot on the gas in these provinces. He's like, y'all don't want to do nothing for yourselves, so we know that. So we're just gonna keep applying pressure to you guys, because we know that we can do that. That's the thing. What are you guys talking about? If you're not talking about issues that like it took Trump like a week, 2 weeks into office or so to see your weak points. He just shows we're a G7 country. And we're seemingly like a laughing stock at this point when it comes to what we're considered on the world stage. We're not what we used to be. So unless we start to actually get things going again in this country, start producing things again, actually start being productive, we're gonna fall even further back in the world. You know what I mean? And if America, under Trump's mandate, starts to bring back to America, starts producing their own things and not being so heavily reliant on the world in trade, then they're going to need us even less. And we're going to be there wondering what the heck happened. The reason why America and I guess even the West stopped producing things is because it was easier and cheaper for China to produce a lot of these things. It was the model. It was you pay somebody cheaper in China than have somebody produce it over here. But the thing is, now we're seeing the effects of that because we got rid of so many industries that say something happens. Like we don't even have like masks, face masks. Yo, we need face masks. We don't have any. We're buying them from overseas. Are you kidding me? This is an over-reliance. This is what decadence looks like when like you're too good to do these things. Oh, I'm not, and these jobs are probably not even paying that much. They're probably a little bit above minimum wage, but they would support teenagers and college students who need to work to make their way through school, maybe immigrants that are trying to get on their feet. People, if you give them an opportunity, will do jobs because everybody needs, especially now, people need money, people need jobs, where everybody's living hand to mouth. I know they had a study saying if it was over $200, they couldn't even have a crisis over $200. That's insane. For a first world country, if $200 could be the make or break point of your livelihood per month, and then you still want to tax us even more, like you want to increase us with more tax. How much tax are we going to pay, man? Like how much taxes are you going to give us? You already choked us completely out. You increased everything due to inflation. Now they're bringing the interest rates back down, and they got glut of condos that nobody's even buying, because who wants to buy a shoebox in the sky for the price of a house? Even a house shouldn't be as much as some of these condos are. You can't have kids. It's one bedroom apartment. People are not even having families anymore. Everybody's too concerned about living now to even think about families. The family structure is dead. They've killed it and they don't want it to come back. We're all miserable now. There's a loneliness crisis going on. Sometimes you got to think, how did this happen? Because this wasn't always the way. And I can only say that when you got certain people in power, they're overlooking the average person. And now we are in a position that we're in. And then it's when you come crying, cap in hand, they're like, oh, okay, we'll give you a little bit of scraps just to shut you up and stuff like that. Nah, like as people, we have the power. You have powers in your community. You have powers for your government. We need to exercise these powers and be more diligent about knowing what's going on with the powers that be, so that people can't just be inserted into the highest level of the highest job in Canada. Are you kidding me? Like just to be inserted like that? That's how little we care until we care. Like that whole Team Canada, buy this and that. The average person is buying what they can at the groceries. They don't care where it's from because they can't afford their price matching. Why do you think price match is so popular? People are trying to find the cheapest deal they can. And just on these carbon issues, if we're being constrained by a carbon tax, and Canadians who are building it or producing it or manufacturing it are handcuffed by these this carbon tax where other countries are not, then the products that come from other countries are going to obviously be cheaper. Buy Canadian, yeah, we'd all love to in theory, but if it costs more for us to do that, then how are we going to do that? You're not giving us a choice. Again, it sounds good in theory, but the practicality of it doesn't make sense. And that's why I just wonder, are they looking at the nuts and bolts, or are they just saying things to appease the public? And I think that's what it is. It's more just we'll just say things, we'll lull you to sleep with our words while we actually continue to just do what we're going to do anyways. Let's rally the troops when we need them, but then as soon as we get what we want, then we'll cast you aside, and I think that's just wrong. It just shows the character, and the fact that you can flip-flop on your ideas now that it suits you for political favor is insane. Y'all are just making too much money. You don't want to let that go. This is why we are looked at, even though we have world-class cities. When you look under the hood, like Vancouver, world-class city, Toronto's world-class city, but when you look under the hood, you see all of the struggle, the tense cities and the crime and all the stuff under the hood. Yeah, is that world-class now? Is that what we consider to be world-class? It's a sad state of affairs, if you ask me, man. So I think that we need to be a lot more proactive this time around in our country. And another thing too, like the government, like they just slipped in an election to get into power. Like you slipped that one right in there, right? When the lowest turnout in election history. I wonder why. Because everybody was staying home because of the fear of going out, and then you slipped in there with an election, knowing that people weren't going to come out to vote. It's just a lot of little snakes, in the grass, man. And I guess politics is a game of, there's going to be a lot of slithery snakes, but again, they can only get as much away with what we allow them to. You try to suppress the media, you try to give us propaganda media in order to influence our minds, so that's why it takes a little extra effort. It's the easiest time in history to ever access information, and you can get it from all different types of sources. You don't have to rely on mainstream news to get your information anymore. Look at Trump. He went on these podcasts, and he started taking people from the Democratic Party right away from them because this is what they listen to, as opposed to some old, middle-aged, more than middle-aged, talking head telling you whatever, feeding you whatever they want to feed you, as a narrative. For what are we in for? Like, subscribe.